How's it going, guys? Tommy from Marshall.Thousands. Today is January 30th, 2021, and today we're going to obviously focus on the major Northeast and Midwest snowstorm that could bring up to over a foot of snow in many places. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first thing comparing the two primary computer models, which are the European and the GFS model. And we're going to begin right around the 18-hour mark, where the low pressure is currently located in Kansas and right around Oklahoma. And you see that there's already a large swath of rain extending throughout the Midwest, and it's especially more evident on the eastern portion of the storm, since obviously in the backside of the storm there's going to be a lot of colder, dense air. So that cold, dense air won't be able to hold enough water vapor, since the air molecules are very packed together in the dense environment to allow any sort of water to fit in within the dense air. So as a result, it's going to be dry on the western and colder side of the storm. However, the eastern side is going to be filled with humidity thanks to the much warmer air on the eastern half of the storm, and eventually that cold air behind it will interact with this warmer Gulf of Mexico air and will create a lot of convection, especially on the eastern side, to create a very broad area of rain. But you see that the snow really begins headed into the 24-hour mark. I would say early Sunday. The snow should be right at Chicago's doorstep, or already at Chicago at this point, and Indianapolis will begin to see some snow, Minneapolis as well. And while Minneapolis will miss out on the majority of the snow from this storm, it will still experience some snow, so watch out if you're around the Minneapolis area. And you see there's a lot of convection, there's a large area of rain, and then it's all going to change over the snow over the next several hours based off of the GFS and the European model, where they're both agreeing around about the same thing, that eventually this rain is going to change over the snow, and there's going to be a large swath of snow, and it's going to be very heavy at times, especially if you're just north of the rain snow line region, because there's going to be a lot of warm air advection in this region. So that's going to force the air molecules to be very buoyant and lift up aloft a lot more, since obviously the cold dense air is going to force that lighter, warmer Gulf of Mexico air further upwards to lift a lot more, because the colder air is trying to filter in to the surface, and it pretty much has to push that lighter, warmer air with more energy and work within the air molecules upwards. And with that warm air molecules, there's a lot more water vapor, since the air molecules have a lot more energy. They're always moving around, so there's a lot more space for that warm air to hold a lot more water. And as that rises, it'll pretty much cause rapid convection in this region, right around the rain snow line region, right around where the strongest temperature contrast is, which will induce a lot of that rapid convection right around the rain snow line region. So in this area, 1 to 2 inches of snow per hour is possible right around just north of the rain snow line. It still has yet to be seen where exactly that rain snow line is. However, it should mainly be around this area, where we aren't at a point where anymore, at least for the Midwest, where there's going to be any drastic changes in the forecast. So I would at least assume that the rain snow line will be in this region. However, if you're within the rain snow line right around the Midwest, it's going to be a tough forecast for you guys, because where exactly that lands will make a huge difference in the forecast. While I did say that there isn't a lot of uncertainty anymore with where that rain snow line is, that small uncertainty, whether even if it's a 5-mile margin of error, can make a big difference in terms of how much snow you receive in a given area, because the rain snow line is a huge determinant of how much snow you receive in the Midwest. But the European and the GFS model are agreeing that there's going to be a large area of snow throughout the Midwest, and this will begin to extend the Mid-Atlantic as early as Sunday. And if we continue to move forward in the European model, you see that the snow really begins right around very late on Sunday to early Monday throughout Virginia, and then this extends to Ohio and a lot of the Great Lakes. And you might notice that a lot of the heavier snow that you saw in the earlier model run is now a lot lighter, as it seems like the snow and also the low pressure system in this area definitely weakened from the earlier run, where you were seeing snowfall rates of 1-2 inches per hour just south of Chicago. And the reason why is because there won't be as much unstable. It's pretty much going to be, this low pressure right here is going to be pretty much get left on an island, right? Because the jet stream is going to be well below it, and there isn't going to be as much unstable air right behind it to really support it, as most of the instability will be right around the East Coast. And this is where the forecasted new low pressure system will form, because there's going to be a lot more convection on the eastern side, where the temperature contrast is a lot more stark, because this area is very close to the warmer Gulf Stream water, which is raising the temperatures across the southeast and mid-Atlantic coast. And once that cold air interacts with that area, there's going to be a lot more convection and rapid convection in this region, and it's going to come to a point where this convection right here will outweigh the amount of convection that's happening right around this low pressure system, and eventually a new low pressure system will form, and this low pressure system will eventually merge with this forecasted new low pressure system, and this low pressure system is expected to bring the majority of the snowfall throughout the Northeast, including New England as well. So let's continue to move forward with this. We're going to see that new low pressure system form off the coast. And you see that while you don't see the low pressure system just yet, it's going to begin to form right around the 48-hour mark, right around late on Sunday, where you begin to, and while you don't see the label of the L or the low pressure system, you begin to see the isobars sort of spreading out in this region, which is representing pretty much the anatomy of a new low pressure system right around North Carolina. And I think this low pressure system formation will be huge in determining how much snowfall you receive throughout the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, because while there's a lot more certainty with this initial low pressure system, because the computer models are already detecting development right around the Midwest, and they already detected what factors are going to steer it, such as the jet stream and this ridge that's going to be to the south of it. However, with this low pressure system, this new one, it becomes a lot more uncertain, because the computer models aren't as sure of how much unstable air will be in this region, how quick that will form, and it's going to be very important to determine how quick this storm will form, because if it forms a little bit earlier, then that could mean a lot more snow for Virginia and DC and a lot of Delmarva Peninsula, because this storm essentially would essentially have more time to pass through the mid-Atlantic, such as Virginia, Washington, D.C., and the Delmarva Peninsula, and pass through with a lot of snow. However, if it forms late, then majority of the snowfall will already be too far to the north to bring as much snow to the mid-Atlantic, like Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. And also the exact location of where it forms, if it forms a little bit closer to the coast, then it might mean more snow for a lot of the interior Northeast. But for the coastal regions, especially the southeastern coastal regions of Delmarva Peninsula and maybe New Jersey, then you could hit some mixing problems where you might get a little bit of a mix of rain and snow. However, if it's a little too offshore, then while that could mean more snow along the coast, and that could mean less snow throughout the inland areas of the Northeast. So we just have to wait and see. However, based off of what both of the computer models are saying right now, it seems like they're confident that this low pressure system is going to stay just close enough to bring a major snowstorm threat throughout the Northeast. And this even extends to Virginia further southward, and New England even further northward. And the GFS, and I noticed that today the GFS model and the European are a lot more closely resemble each other a lot more than the previous runs, which is definitely good to see. Like, we want to see more certainty between these two computer models, because you see that around 72-hour mark we have a low pressure just off the coast of the Delmarva Peninsula, and comparing that to the European model 72 hours from now, you see that they're almost at the exact same location just off the coast of Delmarva Peninsula, and heavy snow throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania and extending to New England. So it's definitely great to see that we're beginning to see a lot more agreement between these computer models, and let's hope that it stays that way, because we don't want the forecast to get any more uncertain than it has been over the past several days. However, at the same time, if you don't like snow, then you better hope that this scenario is not correct, because it is bringing just a major snowfall threat throughout the Northeast, and it's just going to be historic in some areas, I'll say. Well, I don't want to jump to conclusions that early. I don't want to say it's historic, but based off of what we're seeing, this looks to be in a very major snowstorm threat based off of the two of the most reliable computer models. And it isn't like we're forecasting this 5 days out anymore. This is only 3 days out, and while there still could be some drastic changes in the forecast 3 days out, it becomes a lot less likely than, let's say, 5 days out. So this isn't some like blind estimation anymore, or some blind guess by the computer models anymore, since we're only 3 days out. They're beginning to get an idea of what's going to happen. And while I do think changes will happen, I still think that it's pretty much inevitable we're going to see a major snowstorm in the Northeast headed into February. And I just can't see the computer models just taking a completely drastic change to not bring a major snowstorm to the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. Exactly where, that has yet to be seen. I don't want to say that a certain area will definitely get hit by a major snowstorm, because there still definitely could be changes in the track. However, I just want to say it's highly likely we're going to see a major snowstorm in the Northeast. It should be a given at this point, but exactly where remains the question somewhat. However, the computer models are both agreeing, which is giving me and a lot of other forecasters confidence that this will likely be the most likely scenario at this point. So 72 hours from now, right around Monday, let me show you guys a futurecast radar to show you guys. So right around early Monday, the snow will pretty much swallow a lot of the East Coast. Will swallow up New England, like Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, upstate New York City, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and even extending to Maryland and Virginia. And even before that, a lot of Virginia will get impacted by heavy snow from the storm. And even Delmarva Peninsula, while it's becoming likely that Delmarva Peninsula is going to be a close forecast for you guys, depending where that rain snow line is, and you might experience all rain at one point. Initially, before the low pressure comes close to Delmarva Peninsula and raises the temperature, there's going to be a portion where there's going to be a time where it's just going to be an all snow event for a lot of the Delmarva Peninsula and Virginia. So keep that in mind, that even though you might experience rain for a little bit, or maybe majority of the storm, then you're still likely to get at least some snow in the Delmarva Peninsula and extending to southern Virginia as well. And I want you guys to keep that in mind, because again, you don't want to underestimate this storm just because you're going to be in the rain a little bit in those areas, and then you see that this snow will extend to the Northeast and just bring heavy snow throughout New England and a lot of the Mid-Atlantic. And the thing is, as well, is that this is going to be very slow moving, as it's one of those scenarios where it's pretty much a scenario where it's pretty much asking for a major snowstorm along the Northeast. Let me give you guys a better idea of what's going on in the atmosphere that's causing the computer models to forecast this major storm, and really the primary the primary factor that's really causing this major snowstorm is this blocking ridge throughout the eastern half of the western half of the Atlantic, where this ridge right here is going to be very strong, and there's going to be a little bit of a ridge right here, and that's going to pretty much block the low pressure system from moving directly to the east very quickly, and it's going to slow this thing down as a result of pretty much a clogging of the westerly winds, where the jet stream is going to be clogged up by this huge blocking ridge in the western Atlantic, and it's going to divert the jet stream winds from moving from a westerly to easterly direction to more of a southerly direction, and that's going to slow this thing down from moving quickly to the west, and that would bring, and since it's going to move very slowly, it's going to bring just a lot of snowfall throughout the Northeast, and it's going to be a long duration event, which will definitely increase the snowfall totals for a lot of you guys. And it's not only the blocking ridge, there's going to be a lot of unstable air in this region, where there's going to be a big dip as well, which is contributing to the strength of this storm at 995 millibars. It isn't the strongest nor'easter in the world. However, it's definitely strong enough to hold its own and maintain its strength and be able to dump a heavy amount of snow throughout a large area, especially when the duration of the snowfall will be so long, thanks to this blocking ridge in the western half of the Atlantic. So what could change that is a little bit of a weaker blocking ridge throughout the western half of the Atlantic, and which would allow this storm to move a little bit further eastward to miss out on maybe a lot of Northeast from the heaviest snow. However, I think the chances of this completely miss this second low pressure system completely missing out on Northeast is pretty much an impossibility at this point. I think the slow pressure system will be much closer to the coast at this point and bring major snowfall, at least somewhere in the Northeast. But let me show you guys a snowfall forecast, the thing you guys all been waiting for from both the GFS and the European model. So if we take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting with this storm, if we move to the 96-hour mark, which is approximately 4 days from now, you see that there are areas throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania where you're receiving well over a foot of snow, and the sweet spot for the GFS seems to be right around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, or right around southeastern Pennsylvania, where you could see over a foot of snow, and pretty much there's a large area of, I would say, 8 to 12 inches throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and this even extends as far south as Virginia and Maryland, where you could experience over 8 inches of snow from this storm. And for New England, it's a lot more spotty with the GFS model. There are areas where you're receiving over 6 inches of snow. However, there are others where it's more around the 3 to 6 inch category. It really depends on where those heavy snowfall bands form from this storm as it moves up the East Coast. However, I think for the most part from New England, you should expect right around 4 to 8 inches of snow. I think a little higher than that based off of what the European model is stating. Let me show you guys what it is forecasting from this storm when it comes to snowfall accumulation. And here's this total snowfall accumulation from the European model, and you see the European model is a lot more lenient on bringing a major snowfall threat throughout the Northeast and even the Midwest. And this is concerning, especially when it comes to a European model, because the European model tends to be a little bit more reliable when it comes to winter storms than the GFS model. And since we're seeing such a large area of 12 to 18 inches throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and we even see some spots over a foot of snow right around Boston and in Maine a little bit, it becomes concerning when we see that, because the European is very reliable with these types of storms, and to see it forecast this is definitely not something you don't see every day. And I want you guys to prepare in the Northeast as if there's going to be just a historic snowstorm, because I do still think there's that possibility it could be historic because it has all the right ingredients to be a potentially historic storm. It's going to be in a very slow moving weather pattern where it's going to force this storm to move very slowly. It's also going to be relatively strong. There's going to be enough convection right around the East Coast to really maintain the strength of this storm and bring heavy snowfall across the Northeast. And it's just going to be a long duration event as a result of how slow this storm is moving. So this is going to be this definitely is something to at least prepare for right now in the Northeast. It's better to be safe than sorry, because I do think a major snowstorm is now likely, and a lot of areas over a foot is currently possible. And a lot of areas in the Northeast could experience over a foot of snow from this storm, based off of what the computer models are saying. There still could be changes. Don't get me wrong. Like, the computer models, even 3 days out, could make some drastic changes. However, based off of what both the GFS model and the European model are saying and how they're agreeing with each other so much, I think that it's becoming more likely this will be the scenario, or will be at least close to this scenario come this Monday. So keep that in mind. So in terms of the snowfall accumulation, my snowfall accumulation, based off of what the computer models are saying and based off of my experience, what I'm looking at in the atmosphere at this point when this second low pressure system forms off the coast, I think there's going to be a large area of 12 to 18 inches. This includes Philadelphia, this includes New York City, this includes Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and even further westward into Pennsylvania, where I expect a large area of 12 to 18 inches, which is just a very major snowstorm at that point. And even Boston could get in the 12 to 18 inch category, especially if the right band of snow or the right squall of snow stays over your area for a long duration of time. And this extends to Maine as well, where you could see 12 to 18 inches, I expect. And even if you're outside the 12 to 18 inch category, there's a large area of 12 to 18 inches throughout. This extends to Virginia, this extends to West Virginia, and all throughout the Midwest as well. As while the Northeast might experience the worst of this storm from this second low pressure system that's expected to form, the Midwest will also be in a very major snowstorm, where 6 to 12 inches of snow is expected currently for Chicago and Indianapolis. This extends to Cleveland, Ohio, where I think 6 to 12 inches are possible from this storm. Since there's going to be a lot of convection, there's going to be rapid convection as a result of the convergence between the very cold Arctic air and the very warm Gulf of Mexico air. And then just north of that, 3 to 6 inches. This extends to Adirondacks, and Vermont could see 3 to 6. And 3 to 6 maybe right around Delmarva Peninsula, because I think you guys are gonna deal with a little bit of mixing with rain, so that will limit the snowfall for you guys. And like I said in the bottom right corner, this forecast is still subject to change. We could see a completely different forecast come a day from now or 2 days from now. But I think for the most part, we're going to see a major snowstorm in the Northeast. And this is going to be a big one, to be honest, because I haven't seen a snowstorm this big in quite a while. We did have that December snowstorm, but I wouldn't say that it's going to be as widespread and as impactful as this one. And the reason why is because it's looking like this is going to affect many more people. That December snowstorm really only affected New York City with major snowfall, and maybe a little bit of Philadelphia, but for cities like Washington, D.C., they didn't get much snow from that at all. I think they only got around 2 inches of snow from that December snowstorm. However, in this forecast, I'm expecting 6 to 12 inches, and this is going to affect the entire I-95 corridor, as not one city seems like is going to miss out on the major snowfall. So I think this is going to be very impactful. This is going to affect millions of people, and it's quite a while since I've seen a snowstorm this magnitude. It still could change, but I think it's going to be likely we're going to see a major snowstorm throughout the Midwest and Northeast. So I'd prepare if you're all throughout within the pinks and even the blues, I would say, and the darker pinks especially, where over a foot of snow is expected. And also I want to point out that there's going to be strong winds with this storm as well, where we could see winds over 60 and close to 70 miles per hour along the coast, because obviously since this low pressure system is going to be relatively strong, and there's going to be a lot of unstable air. A lot of that cold air on the backside of this storm is going to want to filter into the area of convergence where the pressure is obviously very low, and as it does so, it creates wind, and that wind will extend along the coast and potentially bring some coastal flooding in some very common areas or low-lying areas along the shore. So keep that in mind. That wind could be another problem with this storm and could cause blizzard conditions along the coast, which is why I'm calling this a major blizzard at this point. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, that the strong winds could also be another damaging factor in the storm and could cause power outages. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. I hope you guys have a good day.